Okay, that should be recording now. Good morning, Mick.
Good morning, Katja. Nice to see you.
So nice to see you too. So today we plan to talk about how our body does not necessarily need to be something we have to listen to. So I wonder what you came up with that.
Well, for me, I mean, it's interesting you say that. For me, it's how we listen to it. It's how we listen to it that's the deciding factor in how it impacts us. I think listening to our body is important, but it depends what meaning we're making of what we're hearing.
Yeah, it's nicely put.
So, we may be experiencing, for instance, in my case, I've experienced fatigue or collapse or strange spasm symptoms, and I can listen to those, I can feel them as sensations, but the meaning that I make of them will govern my experience of them. It will govern whether I feel bad about them or whether I feel victim of them. And that for me was the big breakthrough, if you like, in terms of my experience since coming across the three principles, was that the symptoms, the sensations, the circumstances that my body is experiencing is not linked to how I experience it. How I experience it always is a result of my own, of what's going on in my head, what's going on in my psychology, what's going on in my thinking. This morning I remembered a story from when I remembered an experience I had when I was 21. A good friend of mine asked me to take part in an experiment he was doing for his psychology dissertation. And because he was very interested in music, he wanted to show the effects that music had on our level of stress, or our sense of well-being is probably what he was after. And he wanted to show that if we were listening to music we liked, then we would be in a good state. If we listened to music we didn't like, then we would be probably in a stressful state. So, and that was his intention.
That was his theory.
That was his theory, exactly. That was his theory. So, in the sense, he was looking for how music as circumstance could impact us. That was what he was trying to prove, I think. And so he got each person each subject, he got to choose at least 3 or 5 of their best tunes that they really liked. These were favorites that, and we would record them and then give them to him. And so then I remember lying on the couch with headphones, and I was linked up to a stress response detector, so which is effectively like a lie detector, which has these readings which go like this.
Yeah.
the needle is supposed to, is, you know, it had electrodes over me and all this kind of stuff. And then the needle determines what's going on inside you in terms of stress or relaxation. And he played a random selection of tunes. And so the first ones I didn't know, and my response to the first ones was pretty average. And then there came a tune, which was some Indian music that I was really, really fond of, and very, very complex rhythms. And I started, for whatever reason, I started listening to this piece of music very, very deeply. And my experience of this piece of music was that I was following every note on the inside. I was listening to the whole composition. There were several different instruments, all playing incredibly complex music, and I was right there. I felt like I was right there with every note on the inside, and it felt like my body was dancing, and completely uncontrollably dancing with the music. And what was interesting from the readout on this electronic lie detector was that my relaxation had, in terms of how my stress was measured, was that it stopped doing this and just started going down and down and down. So I was going deeper and deeper relaxed. While my experience was I was dancing all over the place.
Wow, that's quite interesting, yeah.
And he thought I'd gone to sleep. He thought I'd completely gone to sleep. But on the inside, I was completely alive and completely present to every note. And then what really messed up his theory, after that, what messed up his theory was that after that, every piece of music, even music I hated, I found myself listening to in the same way. So even music that I really disliked, I was listening in a way that was really, really present. And I experienced the same kind of relaxation, and the instrument was saying the same thing, that my relaxation response was just maintained at that level. Even if it was really loud, heavy metal music and so on, I was hearing it.
Wow.
In the same way. And
so that really proves that our well-being does not depend on circumstance.
Exactly.
It's just your state of mind you had listening to the music you normally didn't like was leading to you don't mind the music, maybe even enjoying it also because you see it in a different way.
Because I was
you hear it in a different way in that case.
Exactly. I was hearing something else to enjoy. And that was the connection. I was listening for the connection. And for me, that's such a clear physical demonstration, if you like, of that we don't have to be victims of our circumstance. And it was only, this was when I was 21. So now, 30 years later, having come across the three principles, I see exactly the same thing applies with my physical body and my physical health, that if I relate to my body as a circumstance, if I relate to my body as there's this sensation, there's this function is happening or not happening as I would like it to, if there's these things going on with it, if I listen to it in the same way that I was listening to that music, if I listen to it as a circumstance that I can be present with, a circumstance that I can listen for connection with, I can I don't know the exact phrase that Byron Katie would use, but something along the lines of loving it no matter what. That changes my relationship to the body, and somehow my body changes in response to that relationship as well. So it's not just that I'm having a different experience, it's also my body responds to my thinking, to my experience. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It's just something that one needs to really experience to see that happening. But it's also my experience that the body has these amazing abilities to clear something up that we don't think possible at the time. But if we sort of give ourselves to the potential of life getting in through just being with it without having any meaning attached to it, that seems to be happening just naturally.
Yeah.
It's like when you take yourself out of the picture, your image doesn't appear in the mirror. It's like that, right? It's you, as if you take away the medium that leads to something being displayed in the first place. I don't know if that makes any sense when I say it like that, but it's sounds like a big paradox, but it's the simplicity of it that makes it complicated for us at times. And surely, the meaning we add to anything that happens with us, be it in the body or be it in other circumstances, it's always leading to the problem. It's not the thing itself that's the problem. It's always the relationship or the meaning we give it. We're creating we're making it a reference point, and then we cling on to it, and then we don't see anything else. I mean, we are not our bodies. That's I think we need to explain why we think that, or why we know actually that the body is not us, because we're seeing the body as something outside of ourselves, and that might sound completely weird to somebody who's never experienced anything like that. But our true essence is the energy behind life. It's the energy that makes us alive in the first place. And whoever has seen somebody die knows that the body stays while something else leaves. People call it the spirit, or there's other names for it, but there's something that gives us life. And I see the body as something that's like a car. It's a vehicle, and the vehicle carries our essence, but at the same time, that essence, that spirit, that mind is the driver. You know, there's the car wouldn't just move by itself, right? The car, you know, wouldn't be able to survive by itself. So there's a driver. I mean, I know this is a metaphor which is just pointing towards the truth, but in this case of our body, the vehicle is like the car, and the spirit is the driver. And it's actually quite a magical driver, because the driver is not just driving the car and moving from A to B and being able to use all the instruments and doing that, but at the same time he's an absolute magical mechanic, because he can also fix the car. You know, there's nothing that he can't do. There's all the things that he can repair, and he's just brilliant at coming up with new stuff, right? And so he always makes sure that his car is always at its best, and that's something he does just naturally. You know, he's got this amazing potential of healing and this amazing potential of always making sure that the car is filled up with petrol, and that the windscreen wipers are exchanged regularly, and all those sort of things. There's all, you know, it's like an all-in-one driver of that car. He does it all. Everything you can imagine he can do, because he's connected to life itself, and life itself has all this potential. And I mean, when we think back to our normal car, you know, the one that's in the road, we take it to the MOT, we put petrol in, we wash it every now and then, we tidy it up, and we look after it in a way. And then it is a reliable, good friend that takes us from A to B, and it's just the same. And when I got a good relationship to my car and outside in the road, I look after it a little better. If I have a I don't care relationship, probably my car won't last as long. And it's just a little bit of the same with our bodies. So, you know, listening to the inspiration of that we get from our own wisdom and from common sense, we look after it. And so when you look at that metaphor, then you can clearly see that the car is something outside of ourselves, because the car is not the driver. The driver is what brings us life, and it's not the car. That means how the driver can see his own car is completely up for grabs, because that's what you were talking about, you know, and our well-being does not depend on what the car is doing. It's because we're something way bigger. We're beyond any concept of even a perception of our true self. You know, we as soon as we can perceive something, as soon as we can experience something, we are already in the form of whatever has been created. But we are pointing back to the healer, and the healer is life itself, and the life itself is formless, and it has a completely mystical nature which we can't get our heads around. It's just something we will never be able to grasp, and we can only, it's like with electricity, we can only see what electricity does, but we can't see electricity. It's just impossible to see it. We can only see its effects. And it's the same with life, and it's the same with that healing energy that comes from life. And in the 3 principles, we call it mind, because it sort of includes everything that can ever be created. So I don't know if that makes any sense, Mick.
For sure. And I think that you're adding to what we were saying last week, which is, where does healing come from? You know, what is that healing force which enables the body to regenerate? And how can we get out of the way? I love that image of the mirror with no one looking in it. And as soon as there is any kind of meaning that we put onto what the car is doing, or whether it's a nice car or a bad car or a dirty car or a car with some restrictions on it. Any kind of meaning we put onto that, we're muddying the mirror. We're changing.
We're trying to change the original image.
The original image. And for me, in my one of the misunderstandings which I held subconsciously for many years, and I was, subconsciously in the sense that I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware that there was thinking of this nature, was that my body was out to get me. And it wasn't till I came across the inside out understanding that those thoughts came to the surface and could be seen for what they were. And the only way I saw them was because there was a feeling of how I was relating to my body. So for me, that the word relationship, how the driver relates to the car is so important. The word relationship, it's, as soon as I saw that there was a part of me that was relating to my body as out to get me, it just didn't make sense. How can a car forget its driver? No, it's just a car.
Yes. Yeah, that was what I was thinking. I was having this picture in my mind and about the car trying to get, the driver and in the road. It's just something that wouldn't happen.
It just wouldn't happen. And yet there's something, I think for me, the people I've talked to with health issues, that it's quite a common unconscious sense that, especially with things like autoimmune diseases.
Well, it's in the word, isn't it? It's sort of
it's in the
as if the autoimmune disease is in the driver's seat. And yes, and I felt at the mercy of that a lot. I felt like the health issues were ruling my life. And I had lots of thinking. I mean, with your example, the car's trying to get me, or the health issues are trying to get me. It shows the power of our thinking, right? We can come up with anything, and it might be the most ridiculous thought that when we believe it, it becomes true for us. And then we get to live in that feeling. But, feeling at the mercy of life was just like going into all areas of life, the social aspect. I wasn't able to enjoy myself. And I had this thinking, once I'm healthy, then I can enjoy myself again and go to the cinema and go and do this and go and do that. And once I'm healthy, then my relationship will be better. And once I'm healthy, I had all those, then I can go back to work. So it was like I've created this thinking that everything depended on health. And that was a complete trap, because it didn't. It was just a thought that I picked up from somewhere. And I was so glad when I started to see that my well-being does not depend on my health at all. It just is one of those biggest misunderstandings that are around, that anything can depend on anything outside of ourselves. Yeah. So, well, I don't know about you, but I sort of feel that we made our point today.
I think we've put something across, I hope. And I hope it's useful for people to hear two aspects, because from what I've heard from people's feedback, it seems to be it seems to be useful to have our different descriptions of and no one can have the same experience, but we are, we all have bodies and we all have our minds which experience those bodies. And many people have health, many people have ill health. So hopefully between Katja and I, we can share something which is of value.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Mick, for today. Do you want to share your contact details with the world?
Sure. People can get in touch with me at mick@coach24.co.uk, or my website is coach24.co.uk.
Lovely. And people can get hold of me through my website, and that's www.katjasymons.com, and it's spelled KatjaSymons.com. So, well, speak to you next time. I'm looking forward to next time, Mick.
Until the next one. Okay.
All right then.
Bye for now.
Bye.